Misty, can you hear us fine? Misty, are you online? Can you hear us by chance?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for being my test subject. Misty, testing 1, 2, 3, one more time. Thank you.
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, can you just say, can you guys hear that okay? Well, it was on the speaker. Okay, I might test one more time, Misty. Hold on one moment. Thank you so much. Misty, testing 1, 2, 3.
Yep, test. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, can you just talk for just a minute, like test 1, 2, 3?
Sure. Test 1, 2, 3. Test 1, 2, 3. Test 1, 2, 3. Test 1, 2, 3.
Okay, thank you, Misty, very much.
You're welcome.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Regent Mendoza, can you hear us okay?
Okay, yeah.
Yes, I can.
We, Madam Chair? Did you go?
That volume up, so you have to
Saw?
turn, you may have to turn up the volume on the computer.
Good morning. Testing 1, 2, 3. Good afternoon. Regent Mendoza, I'm going to have you do testing with me one more time.
I can hear you.
Okay, and just if you don't mind doing a test 1, 2, 3, we want to make sure that you're loud enough.
Okay, test 1, 2, 3.
Hold on one moment. Thank you so much. Okay. Test 1, 2, 3, one more time.
Test 1, 2, 3.
Is that good for you guys? Too loud.
We'd be happy
Okay.
to hear her so loudly and forcefully into the conversation.
We have 2 minutes before the
Oh,
meeting
okay.
starts, but I'm going to go ahead and leave us off of mute. So good afternoon, everybody. I'll put it on the nose. Y'all know which one I'm.
It's really hard to do my own.
Yeah, it was.
Sorry, I couldn't get over there.
We did a conference call once years ago about something. The guy ran and said, all of you in your offices, hang up and get into the screen right now. Okay, we can do that.
And with that, we'll call the meeting to order. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today on what I call our special board academic affairs standing committee meeting, all focused on program review. Just some reminders, and Amy's always good about reminding me to remind all of us that please, if you're online, please state your name before speaking. And for those of us in the room, we'll try to do that as well. If you're not on the committee or speaking, please stay off camera and keep your microphones muted. Members, you may choose to be recognized. Well, frankly, I'm fine with you simply asking your question, particularly since we're sitting right here. I may miss your question, comment or question. And Amy is going to monitor our Zoom chat, raise hand feature in case there are questions or comments. So with that, Amy, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. We have Regent Mendoza.
Present.
Thank you. Regent Ice,
From here.
Regent Lane,
Present.
Regent Johnston.
Here.
Thank you. And then we may have Daniel Archer presenting. Thank you. And that completes roll call.
Thank you, very, very much. Before we get into the business of today, Daniel, Dr. Archer, I want to offer our appreciation to you for a tremendous ride as you have informed us that your tenure with the system will be ending. As I think about your work, it's been transformation. A few things I was thinking about driving over here. You have helped us move the general ed framework forward so that we have those transfer courses in place. You have advocated for the FAFSA for all high school students, and we now have a promise from the state board to require that. You have focused on math pathways. You've been focusing on helping us move away from developmental education. And today, certainly a star, I think, in accomplishments is moving us to a very robust program review. And I know I've left a whole lot of things off the list, but we just wanted to thank you for your service. Wish you much success. Stay away from the slot machine. Or not. But we thank you. And we look forward to hearing from you as you share your new learning outcome. So, how much you don't-
I just want to thank everybody here. Been a phenomenal experience. Got opportunity to do some really back to work. And, got an incredible staff. That's the best staff. I've been in a supervisory position now. It's I think my fourth one. It's definitely the best staff I've ever had. Bar none. We've got really hardworking, smart people who have good attitudes. If you have those three things, you're in a position to do anything. So bottom of my heart, I really appreciate Ben Blake. He's been a great leader and encouraged me to do big things and think bold and kind of challenge the status quo, and appreciate him, appreciate all the institutions. I know it's been some tough work. I appreciate you all working with us. And it's been a great ride. I want to thank last of the board. Got a phenomenal board. It's been very cohesive and collaborative and supportive and focused, and appreciate that all your work.
We're gonna miss you. Any comments? Students?
Congratulations and thanks.
Yeah, I'd just like to say thanks. You have just been a champion of system-wide transfer, making sure that everybody, is involved, and you always put students first and what's best for students. And I would learn your word. I appreciate the fact that.
So staff, I hope that you have non-compete all this time. Here in Kansas and help us move forward. So thank you for your work. So today, well, first, before we move the program review, we need to approve the minutes and we start our. So is there a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting?
I can move it. I can't vote since I went next door. I can move it. Make a motion.
Moved, is there a second? Second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same motion. Minutes are approved, and we thank you for your work. So today's really, for me, an important day. Now, I'm going to open with some comments that are maybe received as rather lengthy, but I want us to begin to tell the story of what we're doing here today. Maybe not so much for those that are in the room, but for those who are joining us who may not be as informed about this process.
My apologies for interrupting. Online, it's a little bit hard to hear. So if we can all in the room, I don't want to turn the volume up too loud on that end. So if we can all in the room, just talk pretty loudly if we can, a little louder than normal, maybe. Okay, my apologies.
I'm on record, the Civil Transportation Board has not spoken, but I'll.
Someone else stop, no soft spoken today. All right, so everybody online, hopefully let us know if that does not help. And I'll continue to raise the volume just a little bit.
Yeah, please signal if you can. So let me know, is this volume workable? No? Regent Mendoza, you can't hear? Okay.
It's because this is the microphone right here. That's why we don't have a big room microphone. So
Get close to it.
yeah,
Let's see.
Huddle over in the middle of you guys.
It seems to have gotten even more quiet.
Well, we may not be speaking at the moment as we're rearranging, so hang on. Is that better?
I can hear you, but it's very distant.
We are doing the Tuesday here.
This is all ploy, right, Dr. Lane, and I have to sit by me.
That's right.
You figure it all out.
How's that, Regent Mendoza?
That's better.
Sit, brother.
That's really always just want to stay at the board office.
no,
No, we're really thrilled to be here at KU today. So as we think about program review, I thought important to take us back for a minute to our strategic plan, Build a Future, that frankly serves as the foundation for all we do. The board passed that plan in 2020, and it contains 3 pillars. Those pillars are helping families, supporting businesses, and advancing economic prosperity. And as I've thought about those, our academic review program is an important action that touches all 3 pillars. We are examining today whether or not our portfolio of programs is in demand, results in degree completion, retains our talent in Kansas or the immediate region, and is a sound investment for students. Another way of thinking about that, it's all about access, affordability, and success for our youth and our students. Revising our program review process has been thorough and it has been very collaborative. We, as Regents, want to extend our appreciation to the provost and the system leaders who shared our commitment to a data-driven review. It's been thoughtful, resulting in a meaningful policy that we anticipate will help us optimize our program deliveries. Today, we officially begin our review process designed to ensure our resources are invested to support student success, to support the workforce, and in direct alignment with the Kansas economy. At the same time, we would be remiss if we did not recognize the impact our analysis may have. We may be discussing programs today, but programs are selected by students, they're taught by faculty, and programs serve our communities. So we must be mindful that we are impacting people with our decisions, and I know we will be thoughtful. Change is difficult, even when we understand that the road is something that we must travel. We've all had those experiences, and today is no different. Our revised academic program review process will shine a light on our portfolio. The analysis signifies that we're willing to ask the question, are we offering programs that make our students competitive in today's and tomorrow's economy? Well, at the same time, I believe we also need a balanced approach. We need to recognize the cultural contributions many programs have to enrich our lives and frankly, bring our communities together. These concerns are real. Let's keep these questions at the forefront of our decision and actions. And at the same time, we must ensure our resources optimize, prioritize, and deliver on the promises outlined in Building a Future. So last month, the board had an opportunity to meet with members of the Faculty Senate. We briefly discussed program review. I have to tell you, I thought that that would be the only thing we talked about, but it was a brief conversation. And we encouraged the Senate to be fully engaged in this process. Nothing has been predetermined. Development and implementation of this policy has been and will remain a collaborative and thorough process. So while our focus today is on programs that did not meet 2 or more of the metrics in our academic program review, an overwhelming majority of our programs, more than 90%, surpass the established benchmarks. I find that reassuring, astounding, and probably some of the top in the nation. 90% of our programs are in demand by our students, are producing degrees, are meeting the needs of business and industry, and have a strong return on investment for our families. So as a Kansan, as a regent, as a great aunt, as a concerned neighbor, and frankly, as a taxpayer, I believe these facts deserve celebration. So 90% of our programs meet or exceed. Let's be sure we celebrate that. 90% of our programs, again, are in demand, award degrees, fill the talent pipeline, and have a strong return on investment. But the data also tells us we have work to do. So now we have the opportunity to evaluate those programs where the return on the investment for students is not immediately transparent. And so as I close these opening remarks, and thank you for your tolerance, I believe it's important to remind all involved the board has not made any decisions about these programs. Today, we will discuss programs identified in our preliminary analysis that do not meet the thresholds. Each university provost will have a few minutes to describe the programs in this review, to identify any patterns that they see, to talk to us about the initial processes they're using to engage stakeholders and to make the recommendations, and to share any initial considerations that will be important for the board to understand. So following the discussion, I'll ask for a motion to officially codify this list of undergraduate programs to be reviewed this academic year with written recommendations to return to the Academic Affairs Committee, March 21st, 2024. So, important work. It feels like we're at the beginning, although I want to recognize the hard work that has already taken place. And now we have a great privilege to hear from our provost. The provost, we're going to go in alphabetical order. And I've already warned Provost Thomas that he's up first. So if there are no other questions or comments about our process, then we'll hand it to you, Brent.
All right. Emporia State University had two programs that failed to meet two or more of the metrics. Had we done these analyses about a year and a half ago, we would have had a much longer list of programs. But as all of you are aware, we did make some very difficult decisions, and we suspended most of our under-enrolled, low subscribed programs. So we only have two that made the list this time. One of them was not a surprise. It was something that when we were doing our analyses 2 summers ago, or summer before last, it has low, small numbers, is business education. That has always been a relatively small program. But we made the decision at that time to continue it, largely because there's really only, I believe, one unique course in that curriculum. And it costs next to nothing to continue offering it. And we thought, since we part of the DNA of Emporia State is preparing teachers, we felt like it was important to continue that program at the time. However, since that time, the enrollment, the headcount enrollment has continued to decline. And so for that program, I've already started conversations with the Dean of the School of Business and Technology and also their assistant dean that's in charge of that particular program. And we're going to do an updated analysis on the program and then make a decision on it after we've taken a hard look at it again of what we may want to do with that program. It's my understanding that even without the BSE in business education, there would still be a pathway available to students who wanted to teach business. There would be other ways for them to do that at ESU even without the program. So we're going to look at those options and whether that might be to our advantage or not. The second program that made our list was theater. And theater is, it met the metric for head count enrollment. I think it had 32.5 head count at that snapshot in time based on the 4-year average. It did not meet the metric for completions. It had 8 point something, and it's needed to have 10. So it was just shy of the number of completions. Then on the 2 external metrics, it far exceeded the fraction of students that are remaining and working in the region after graduation, but it did not meet that final metric of the median salary for the graduates. So theater is one of those programs that, it's the more you grow the program, the more expensive it's going to be, but theater has a tremendous value to our community and our campus. My daughter is a graduate of that program, so I'm probably a little biased. My son is also pursuing, although he is in the BSE in speech and theater, which is another factor to consider with the theater program. There is a substantial amount of curricular overlap with our BSE in speech and theater. And so if you look at the numbers for our BSE in speech and theater, along with those that are in the straight theater major, those metrics would probably be reflect much more positively on the program. But it's hard for me to imagine giving up on a program that brings a tremendous value to our community and our campus. However, our director of theater left us last year and took a job closer to family. We now have an interim director of theater in place at the moment, and we're in the search for a permanent director of theater. And I think now we do have an opportunity to again analyze that program, dig into the metrics, and ask ourselves some questions about how can we what are some things we could do to improve the career outcomes for the students, because I believe there are some things we could be doing to improve on that metric.
Thank you so much. Questions from Regents? Seeing none. Any other comments you'd like to make?
Thank you so much.
Very good. Appreciate it. Is Provost Barnesville online? If so, you're up.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me okay?
Sure can.
Okay, great. Thank you. Sorry I'm not there in person, but hopefully you can hear me okay. And please let me know what questions you have as I go through where we are in terms of our process. Fort Hays State had 5 programs identified in this process. 3 I was expecting to, I was surprised to find on the list. However, we are fully committed to reviewing all 5 of these programs through the process and timeline that has been outlined for this year. I'll just quickly describe each program and let you know where we are in our process of conversation and vetting here on our campus. The first program on the list is the Bachelor's of Music and Music Education. That was a program I was surprised to see on the list, but it is our music education program. And we will review, since it was on the list, we will review and consider options for that program to make recommendations at the end of this academic year. As you know, as many of you know, we need music educators in the state of Kansas. And so, but we'll evaluate and make recommendations based on some other criteria that we just haven't had time to look at yet. Our BA in philosophy is a program that has been low enrolled and been on the low enrollment program list before. This was one I was not surprised to see on the list. Much like with the other programs, we'll review this year, working with the faculty and the department chair and program coordinator to look at that program and make recommendations in May as well. The BA in foreign language Spanish is our only foreign language program at Fort Hays State as a degree program, Spanish. I was surprised to see this one on the list, given that the enrollments have increased in that major and in this program over the last few years. And so we'll be delving deeper into data and looking at trends and things like that, that maybe perhaps had us miss the mark on the criteria that KBOR aligned. Our BA and BS in physics has been also on the low enrolled program list prior. One thing I'll say about this program is it is a feeder program it's a pre-engineering feeder program for the engineering programs at Kansas State University. And so while we have one thing that we'll take a look at, one nuance for this program that we'll take a look at this year is perhaps students, once they've finished criteria at K-State, they have the option of reverse transferring back to Fort Hays to earn their Bachelor of Science or Bachelor of Arts in Physics. And we're wondering if perhaps that isn't occurring as seamlessly as we'd like for it to, which is on Fort Hays. And making sure that we have some of those elements in place, but we'll certainly make recommendations in May, considering all of those factors. The final program on our list was not one that was a surprise. I will point out there was a typo on the original list. Originally, it was listed as the BA in music. We actually don't have a BA in music. It's a BA in performing arts, so a Bachelor of Arts in Performing Arts. We have multiple concentrations in this program, but this is our theater program, our music technology concentration, as well as a program for a student that is perhaps struggling to finish the degree requirements for the Bachelor of Fine Arts in Music. And so we have this BA in Performing Arts with multiple concentrations. The largest concentration, which still is not very large, is theater. And so much like my colleague, Provost Thomas at Emporia State, theater is a special program, but it is a relatively small program at Fort Hays State. And we will certainly be taking a look at those concentrations and making sure that's the appropriate pathway for our students to get those experiences at Fort Hays State in this region. In terms of where we are with actions, given that we received the information a week ago, I've set up meetings with all of the leadership of each of these programs to meet with deans, program coordinators, and chairs next week and the week after to really kickstart our internal process here at Fort Hays State University to review all 5 of these programs. That process will also involve communication with the entire university as we see fit. But communications thus far have included both program leaders as well as our faculty senate president and our bargaining unit AAUP president. Because if we were to phase a program out, there is a process that we would have to follow per our MOA, our agreement with the bargaining unit, if we do phase a program out. So I just wanted to point that out as maybe a nuance at Fort Hays State that we'll have to collectively work through together. I think, yeah, that's all I wanted to share. Do any of you have questions for me about anything I shared today?
Thank you very much, Provost Onsdorf. Any questions or comments?
I do have just one question. Can you hear me, Jill? I
I sure
apologize.
can. Yeah, no, I can.
I was just curious on your physics, which is pre-engineering, you said that was that it would transfer to KSU and then reverse transfer. Is it unique just to Kansas State, or would those also transfer to Wichita or KU?
They could transfer. Our program is set up specifically with K-State, and that's where most of our students do go.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I would point out we do have students that complete the program that aren't pre-engineering, but the majority of those majors are in a pre-engineering curriculum.
I don't see any other questions. Thank you very much, Jill. We appreciate it.
You bet.
All right, now we are ready for K-State University.
Well, good afternoon, Regents. This is Chuck Tabor. So we had 2 programs on the list, and the first of these programs is one that we've been looking at for a while, both because it's had some low numbers. It's been on minima reports in the past, but also because it's an area of opportunity that I want to describe for you. This is the geography program, the Bachelor of Arts and Science in Geography. The program missed on a number of majors and degree production, but did meet criteria for the talent pipeline and student ROI. For the number of majors, it had 22.5 majors on the 4-year average, and for a number of degrees produced, it was 7.25 degrees produced on the 4-year average. So geography is what we call a discovery major. That is, very few students know anything about geography or the possible career paths that come with geography when they come to a university. And so this is something that a student may encounter, take a course and they decide this is interesting and exciting to them, and then they choose to major in it. But it is an area that our research, our market research shows is a growing area nationally. So it's predicted that, over the Over the next few years, we're going to see significant growth in the need for GIS technicians, GIS scientists, et cetera, remote sensing technicians. It also connects with some of the strategic areas of growth here at Kansas State University in terms of water and water utilization, water policy, water programs, as well as the digital agriculture programs that we have that make use of GIS and some of those technologies that come in through geography. It's also one of 4 programs across 2 colleges that contribute to our new undergraduate program in environmental science. You may remember some of you approving that quite recently. And that program is already just a smash success with 72 majors in that program. And a lot of the coursework is shared from geography into that program. So there's a curricular connection between this program and that new program. We're also working on a new program specifically in geographic information systems and technology that would really capitalize and target that need for GIS technology, which would be it's a partnership with computer science. We do expect that to be successful as well. As I said, we've been thinking about this program for a while, and we are talking about some possible action plans for it moving forward. We think there's some need for some changes. It needs to be more closely connected to some of the strategic initiatives at the university. We think that in particular, I mentioned water and sustainability as 2 areas that we're really growing in, GIS, remote sensing, et cetera. So we think that we can fashion some changes for this program that will make it more attractive and bring students in earlier and students that understand at an earlier stage what the opportunities are with this program. The second program we had is the music, Bachelor of Arts in Music, and not our Bachelor of Music Education, but the Bachelor of Arts in Music. It passed the criteria for student demand with 44.5 majors, and it passed the criteria for degree production with an average of 13 degrees. But the data show that only 34.2% of the graduates stay in the region, and there's about a $34,000 median salary 5 years out. So those were the 2 criteria that the program struggled with. We were a little surprised, and we're investigating one of those numbers because the most recent previous report we got from the K-Board data had shown that 67% of our graduates were employed within the region. So we're trying to understand what that difference is there. So this was a bit of a surprise for that reason. As I mentioned, we also have a music education program, which is quite successful and quite strong. And this program is tightly connected to that program. So there's a curricular connection with the music education program, sharing a lot of coursework and faculty. That program, 82%, according to the most recent numbers, 82% of those graduates stay in the region, and they command a salary of around $51,500. So it's a program that does well on these markers. Just a couple of other considerations. This is the program that hosts the K-State Marching Band, which is a nationally renowned, award-winning, Sudler Trophy-winning program. And this is also a program that hosts literally hundreds of, actually thousands of high school students coming onto our campus for summer programs. And so it's an important feeder for really all of the programs across the university where students come in for summer camps and get an experience. So there's some important work that's done by the faculty in this program that serves the entire university. So in terms of actions, we've started talking with the program about some of the ways we can enhance career opportunities. The program has recently created an accelerated bachelor's MBA program, which will create greater value for graduates potentially who choose to go on and get an MBA. So it's an accelerated program where they can end up with both of those programs. This will start in the spring, and we're hopeful that that will increase the salary potential coming out of that with students that get both of those degrees. They've created a variety of internship programs, and we're going to work on expanding that in Kansas City and other areas where these internships will give them more direct connections with job opportunities in the region. So we're looking to develop a plan that will directly address both of those deficiencies in the program. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about these two programs.
Thank you, Provost Tabor. Appreciate it. I have one question. You said you've done some market research. Can you tell us who you're using for that analysis?
So we've developed our own market research team, and they're using the same tools that KBOR is using, but the team itself is our own team, and it's part of our academic program review revitalization project that we've created. Last year, we invested in a team of market analysts that are doing this work for all of our programs across the university.
Thank you very much. Other questions or comments for Provost Tabor? Not seeing any. Thank you very much. Appreciate the information.
Thank you all so much. Yeah.
Provost Bicklemeyer.
Thank you very much. Let me start by thanking you for your efforts to improve the process for reviewing low enrolled programs and for your stewardship of the academic portfolio of the Regents institutions, and for your interest in understanding the nature of the programs that are currently on our low enrolled list at KU. To note the considerations that we take for reviewing academic programs at KU, we recognize there's always room for improvement in recruiting and attracting students, as well as improving efficiency of the operations of our programs. And our work is to consider the relation of the program with majors and the research mission, and considering service to the other units through gen ed electives and minors. And that allows us to determine some of the perspective we have on return on investment. As a research intensive institution at KU, we are working, and we will continue to work on strengthening and stabilizing our academic programs by ensuring they achieve that balance of scholarly impact, service to other programs through gen ed and electives and minors, and the enrollment of degree seekers that aligns with market demand. I'd remind everybody that some of the programs that are on our list are there because they scored as not meeting talent pipeline thresholds. Yet overall, 45% of students come to Kansas from out of state, and we retain about 20% of those students who stay in state after graduation. And so we know that we are one of the largest importers of talent to the state of Kansas. I also remind you before I go through the programs that over the last 3 years, we've closed more than 40 programs in the past several years. And these most that you see here today are perennially on that list. And so it may not be a surprise to you that of the 11 programs that are on the list for KU, we've categorized 8 as mission critical, 2 that we will have an improvement plan for as we move on this year, and 1 for consideration as a merger. And a number of these are already scheduled for review this year. So let me start with the mission critical programs and mention again that as we mentioned in our dialogue earlier this fall, the criteria that we factor in to consider mission critical are if they're a unique program to the state or among KBOR institutions, if they address the research mission of the university as a venture in applied science that's tied directly to economic growth and innovation, or contributes to the social and cultural enrichment of students in Kansas, in the United States or internationally. And if it's a service program that makes contributions through general ed curriculum or has minors as well, or if it provides a high return on investment in terms of the number of student credit hours produced by tenure track faculty members. I'll start with astronomy, and according to the 4 criteria and the preliminary analysis, astronomy doesn't meet any of those criteria. However, it's impressively close on student demand and degrees, and there is no data listed there for salary. This is a unique program among KBOR institutions. We have 91% of the market share as documented there among KBOR institutions, and it's linked to a graduate program that has high research productivity, such that elimination would harm the institution's research program. I do want to take a minute to play show and tell
in terms of some of the data that we look at that comes to us from academic analytics. This is an example of what we call a spider chart from academic analytics that compares our astronomy program against all other astronomy programs that are registered nationally. Academic analytics collects data from all, not all, but from a significant number of peer-reviewed journals and books and various archival information systems nationally and internationally. And you will see the way the spider chart works is this gray circle is the 50% or the middle of performance or productivity of all other departments and programs. And you'll see, for example, with astronomy, we are almost at the 100th percentile of all of the programs in articles and in citations and in conference proceedings and significantly impactful in federal grants as well as in chapters and books. So those are some of the kinds of things that when I tell you it's high research productivity that I'm looking at as I go through.
How many,
And
excuse
won't do
me,
that for
can I jump
everybody.
in with a quick question on that? How many students are involved in that research? Or is it faculty driven?
It's faculty-driven research. I'll also, thank you for asking that question, because one of the things that I will say in terms of undergraduate research and what we're doing is we are actually, I don't want to give away too much of the secret sauce for Chuck, but hey, but one of the things that we're doing in recruitment and marketing is talking about the fact that because our faculty are research intensive and heavily research engaged, we're focusing on teaching our students at the graduate and more at the undergraduate level how to research in the discipline through their coursework. It's known as undergraduate research. It's a high impact practice. And by doing that work, we're actually teaching them how to think about innovating in that area. So actually, it's one differentiator that we are trying to establish.
So in the astronomy program, is that something that's emerging that may be coming as more direct engagement with students?
Well, there are a fair number of students who are engaged. We have service learning and research numbers.
Okay.
Maybe
Maybe
not usually available, but I think that's something we can report in.
That'd be great.
April. So that's astronomy. I'll try to do this quickly since we have 11. Atmospheric science does not meet, but is close on degree production and doesn't meet the talent pipeline. It also is a unique program in the state. As we all might recognize, the impact of climate change creates an important need for research in this area. This is linked to a graduate program that also has high research productivity, and eliminating that program would do harm to our research program. And it ties to support, importantly, to other high research productive programs in other disciplines and in other schools, such as some of our work, particularly around engineering and aeronautics, et cetera. Engineering physics is the third program on our list. It does not meet degree production. It's 1% off on the talent pipeline. It is a unique program in the state. It provides research and service courses that are foundational to all other engineering disciplines that are critical to Kansas, and it's an ABET accredited program. Music does not meet the talent pipeline or the student ROI. Interestingly, we have recently streamlined our music degrees over the last year or so to consolidate options for students. Our enrollment is adequate with high student credit hours, electives, and minors. I'll also note, as I think maybe some of my colleagues would note, that our band and our music courses and our minors are one of our best recruiting tools actually for students in engineering and for students in math and for students in other related disciplines who want to have a connection to music but don't see themselves majoring in music. I also note that we do have many out-of-state students in our music program, and many go on to national and international acclaim with self-employed musicians and music teachers, which don't count in KBORD data. And this is maybe one place where we know that the KBORD data diverges from our institutional research data in that area. And I'll also note, as I was connecting with our interim dean of music, who has spent recent weeks in Japan and China and keynoting in the International Music School Deans Forum for this year. There is a recognition there that as a keynote, our School of Music is well known internationally. Our market share percentage is high here. Roughly 1/4 of music undergraduate degrees in the state of Kansas are awarded by KU School of Music. And that includes the 5 other Regents institutions and all other public and private colleges and universities with music programs. Under religious studies, this does not meet student demand or degree production. It is one of only 2 programs in the state with 51% of the market share. We are working on an improvement plan to focus on increasing demand for courses, particularly in the general education curriculum. This is also a high research productivity, and this is actually one of the strongest programs in the country in terms of publications and citations, and it generates significant external funds. It produces or it provides a large number of service courses through general education and electives as well as minors. And this one is undergoing academic program review. The next one up is African and African American Studies. This doesn't meet student demand, degree production, and talent pipeline. It is a unique program in the state. It has high return on investment. There are 319 student credit hours produced for every tenure track faculty in this program. It has a significant role in general education for the university. Its SCH production is 3,827, so 3,800 student credit hours produced, and it has over 1,200 students that are outside the major taking those courses. It is an interdisciplinary curriculum focused on international and US. It offers one of the less commonly taught languages, and that's important to know because we receive significant federal funding for what are known as Title VI centers, which are funded by the Department of State. We have 4 of those area study centers at KU. It is one of our greatest strengths. We are 7th in the nation for area study centers, and we generate significant revenue from federal funds in that regard. It is a research productive faculty that generates external funds, and it's nationally recognized with a distinguished professor in that area. For American Studies.
Question.
Mhm.
So just to be helpful for scale, you said 319 hours per tenure faculty. What's the reasonable benchmark?
250.
Yes, thank you.
Americans, and we can confirm that in March as well. I'm pretty sure that's the.
Good enough for me. I
Yeah.
don't have to do any more.
For American Studies, this does not meet student demand and degree production categories. This is also a unique program in the state. This is also one of a high research productivity program and one of the strongest programs in the country in terms of publications and citations. It has 2 nationally recognized distinguished professors, and it's linked to a graduate program. And the coursework is closely tied, so it would possibly, its elimination would harm the research program. It has a significant role in general education for the university. 42% of its student credit hours are to non-majors. And again, you won't see those in your charts and forms. And its interdisciplinary program or curriculum focuses on both US and international studies. Our Jewish studies.
About 2 minutes.
Yeah, our Jewish studies program, read faster. Our Jewish studies program does not meet student demand, degree production, and talent pipeline. This is also a unique program in the state, a high placement of graduates in nonprofit, non-governmental sector, often supporting Jewish organizations. It has an important role for general education in the university with critical course offerings such as the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and introduction. By the way, if you would like to be downstairs between 4 and 6 p.m., they are producing a forum for the community on understanding what's happening at this moment in history. Student credit hour production is 77% non-majors. So that means you're only seeing about 25% of what they produce in the information you have in front of you. Their interdisciplinary program is focused on US and international. It's a very popular enrollment as a minor. And again, that's not reflected in the data that you're seeing. And again, there are very strong ties to community organizations and outreach and donors in Kansas City and beyond. For improvement plans, 2 programs we're looking at are GIST, and it does not meet talent pipeline and student ROI. It's one of 3 programs in the state with K-State and Wichita State. We have 59% of the market share of those 3 programs. There's high research productivity here, and again, a strong program in the country. 50% of the student credit hours in this program come from non-majors. An improvement plan that we're looking at is to increase student ROI or return on investment. So the talent pipeline, we think it's not quite appropriate to the major And so we're looking at how we focus on global employment opportunities here. And we are putting this through detailed review. Improvement plan for geography does not meet student demand and degree production. It's one of 4 programs and has 32% market share. It's a strong research program that generates about $400,000 per year in external funding and $140,000 per year in indirects for the university. 40% of the student credit hours go to non-majors. There are possibilities of thinking about how we combine degree programs here and how we grow student demand. And finally, as a possible merger, we're looking at the physical education, teaching and coaching program. It's currently in health sciences or the human HSCS, health science and exercise sciences program, and moving it into curriculum and teaching, teacher prep programs concentration. Thank you very much. How far off?
You need some oxygen?
I did 11 and most of these guys did 1 or 2.
Right.
The same amount of time.
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate it. A couple
You
of,
did great, and we wouldn't have wanted you to
that's
hurry.
right.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. And it might be helpful for us to understand your notes too, if you're so inclined to share pieces of those you think might be helpful. Question for you. How should we be thinking about the importance of offering full degree programs versus courses?
Wow. Do you want to have anybody else finish before? Because that's a really
Well, be
great
thinking
question.
about that because I think that's going to be important to our process. So don't let me not come back to you. Okay.
I do say there's something, as I'm focusing on student credit hour total production, the number of majors and minors and general education hours, I think it's important for you to see that mix and then to make some designation.
Thank you very much. I'll swing back to you if we have time. Questions from the other regions? All right. We'll move on now to Pittsburgh State, but before we do, Daniel, I'm so sorry, I just jumped right over your overview. So we'll do your overview as an underview when we're done here.
Yeah, I think you pretty well covered it.
That's okay. I just, if there's something that you need to add, I just apologize for that. All right, Provost Smith, are you with us?
Yes, good afternoon. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Pittsburgh State had 6 programs that were identified. And I'm going to actually talk about these kind of in 3 different groups. One of them has to do with 3 programs with how we actually reacted to the low enrollment report in 2020, which we implemented in 2021, and we think we've seen some positive results of that. So I want to make sure that I get to that. First program is math. The Bachelor of Science in Math at Pitt State prepares students for careers in mathematics. But within that, we have actually 3 emphasis: actuarial science, teaching grades 6-12, and teaching grades 5-8. The BS in Math, as I indicated, was discontinued effective fall 2021. The existing emphases in teaching grades 6-12 and grades 5-8 were then merged with the BS in Math. So we actually took an action 2 years ago, and we merged the program in order to address the low enrollment. And we're seeing some positive results from that. The student enrollment numbers for the BS in Math, including the education emphasis for fall 22 and fall 23, were actually 35 and 30. So we saw some numbers go up for us. In addition to degree, additionally, we have 35 students with minors in math for teaching middle school. And we thought that was a positive. The math program itself produces 5,000, about 5,400 undergraduate student credit hours. And the courses in math also serve to help fulfill part of our general ed requirements. A second program, very similar with one that we merged, was history. And the Bachelor of Science in History is pretty flexible in its design of program, but it has an optional emphasis in education as well. We did discontinue the BS in 2021 in history and government. We did include the new education emphasis in the program. And our numbers actually for the BS and with the merger went in the fall of 22 and 23 were 52 and 71. So again, we thought we saw some numbers grow there. And again, what I want to point out with that when I say that is those are not 4-year averages. Those are 2 years that from the time that we did an action in an effort to address the low enrollment in those. Some other additional considerations we had is the fact that history produces about 2,000 student credit hours. There's 10 students with a minor. And it's also the stepping stone to our master's in history. And we have a fully online program with 39 declared majors in that particular program at this time. The music, since it sounds like that's a theme today, it was also one that we addressed back in the fall of 21 by merging the education emphasis in it. Again, it provides an opportunity for students in the field of education and music and beyond. It's also a critical component to our cultural activity in the area. Certainly, we do a lot of things combined with our community and our campus that extend the actual experience for students on campus. The numbers for that particular program, fall 22 and fall 23, we ended up with 41 and 56 respectively. The courses in music also produce about 3,300 student credit hours. And in the fall, there were 49 minors in that particular program as well. And again, it contributes to our general education and is a significant contribution to the committee. So those three programs, the action of merger 2 years ago, we've seen some results from that at this time. We plan to continue our emphasis in growing those programs. Polymer chemistry was a fourth program that was identified at Pitt State. And it's actually one that we identified early on as unique. It's unique not only to Pitt State, but nationally in a lot of ways. It's housed within the Department of Chemistry and the College of Arts and Sciences, but it is interdisciplinary in its program. It does connect with plastics engineering and our Kansas Polymer Research Institute. I think recently we've heard some of the talk and some of the work we've been doing with NEMA, the National Institute for Materials, and that's a part that will play into this. And as we go along, the program was actually increasing prior to the pandemic, and then it dropped in enrollment. We had 7 majors in the fall of 2023. However, the BS in polymer chemistry is one of few in the US, but our MS in polymer chemistry is growing and has 29 majors at this time. So it is a stepping stone into that particular program. So 3 I'm mentioning had to do with the merger, and we're seeing results. Polymer chemistry is a unique program. The next in the series here is actually physics. And it's our physics programs offers a variety of 7 different emphases. 3 are designed for students planning to seek graduate study. And then we also have professionals seek graduate study in professional, solid state physics, and astrophysics. The other 3 are designed for students going directly into the workforce after graduating in polymer physics, engineering technology, secondary education, and the customized option. They produced about 2,100 student credit hours this past fall. Courses in this also, we actually have 66 students pursuing minors in physics. This is also another outcome of this particular major. This is one we're going to look to create an action plan to further address with how we can improve that particular program. It does provide service. We do get some education majors through there, but not enough to actually, for those of you that are in K-12, we're not getting the supply that probably people need at this point in time. The last program I'll mention is the international business. And we actually are already in the process prior to this particular report, doing the paperwork to phase it out. So that's where we're headed with that particular program. I have talked with the deans. The deans have been talking with the departments that have these programs, and we're continuing to review and consider what kind of actions we can to improve the standing of these particular programs. I tried to be brief as I was asked to do, and I'll stand for questions.
Thank you very much, Provost Smith. Questions from the regions? My question, Howard, and you may have to answer this later due to our time, is whether or not a program has to have a major when it's offering minors. So I'd love to get some insight from you on that at some point. If you can do it briefly now, fine. If not, I'll hold it for another opportunity.
I think I want to call a friend and ask. Never mind.
Okay.
I think I'd probably like to consult with some of our folks to talk a little bit about what some of the implications of doing something like that might be. So, but I think it's a great question. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Appreciate it. And now we're ready for you, Provost Lefevre, Wichita State.
Hello, everyone, and I'll do my best to be brief as well. I really appreciate the opportunity to to talk a little bit about our 5 programs that we had on the list. And as I looked at our list, again, we had one program that we were not really surprised about, our women's ethnicity and intersectional studies. It was on the low enrolled program list the last time, but what I would say about that program is we really have been working hard at program revision for that program, changed the name, reorganized the department, and we are seeing growth in that degree program. So that, I feel like that's it's almost like a new program at this point. And then as you look at the overview, you will see that nearly all of our programs met the 2 criteria for talent pipeline and return on investment, which we believe are strong indicators. Where we need to show some improvement, the student demand. I think one of the things that would really, illuminate the program review process, if we also look at the student credit hour production that these programs list. All of the programs that are on WSU's list are part of our Fairmount College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, and they contribute quite heavily to the general education requirements that our students take. And for most of them, close to 90% of their student credit hours that they produce are for other degree programs in other colleges. So I think that's a factor in our student demand. The other thing that I would say is geology and philosophy were very close to that benchmark of student demand. And those 2 sort of fluctuate, especially geology is very cyclical. As the oil industry goes, so does our geology program go. But what we have been doing some things recently to sort of mitigate the effects of that by offering new concentrations in things like mineral exploration, battery production, things like that, thinking about new energy sources. So we've done some things recently that we think will continue to pay off in terms of growing enrollment. In terms of the degree production, again, that metric, if we were able to count majors and minors, as I think you might be suggesting, Regent Lane, our numbers would be quite different, or the metrics would be different. If we think about philosophy and physics and even our women's ethnicity and intersectional studies, those 3 degree programs have very healthy numbers of students who are pursuing minors in those areas. Physics has a large number of students who double major, interestingly enough. And so in the way we think about majors and minors, those are equally valuable and really are an indication of student need and interest. I do want to mention a little bit about the talent pipeline. For Wichita State, you all know that we are very in tune with industry needs, our industry partners with our innovation campus. So we work really hard at making sure that all of our degree programs have industry connections. Physics is a really good example of a program that's on our list that is critical to the industry in Wichita, our aerospace and aviation. It would be very detrimental to our community if those programs were no longer in existence. So, and I would also say that a very high percentage of our graduates stay in Kansas. That's one of the hallmarks of Wichita State programs. In terms of return on investment, all of our programs met that metric except for the forensic science. We believe that with our partnership with ATF being located on our campus, initial conversations with ATF, it seems to be pointing to, or we know will be pointing to new certificate areas, maybe a minor that will result in different career paths for students in that major. Another area that I think we have to take into consideration is accreditation. Physics and philosophy, those programs or courses within those programs are required for accreditation for both engineering and health professions. So again, they play a critical role outside of the colleges that they're in. some of these programs, particularly philosophy, provide support for other programs even across the state. So we have a 3+3 program with KU Law with our philosophy program. Our geology camps provide experiences for a number of students from all of the other Regents institutions and even some of the other states that are nearby. Meeting our external funding goals, the physics program is critical to that, as well as our other degree programs. And then I want to really reiterate that in terms of cost effectiveness, the number of student credit hours produced and taught by our faculty more than outweighs the costs that it takes to deliver those programs. So I'll just go briefly into detail on just a couple of the programs. Again, going back to women's ethnicity and intersectional studies, one of the things that we have to take into consideration at Wichita State, we are quickly becoming, or we are working earnestly towards becoming an HSI, and the percentage of our underrepresented minority students, those students are particularly attracted to this degree program. So we feel that it's a service to our students to meet those interests. It also, our general education requirements include a DEI component, and courses within this major are popular for fulfilling that requirement as well. The Women's Studies program is interdisciplinary, also contributing to its cost effectiveness. We really only have 2 full-time faculty in that program, and so it's very cost effective. In terms of philosophy, I just really want to reiterate the requirements for accreditation for that. And then one of the things that we're doing with philosophy is we've started to put in new concentrations, again, to really address those industry needs. So concentrations in ethics. If we think about AI and the role that it's playing in businesses, the role of ethics and being informed in that area is critical. Geology is one of the programs on the list. And again, that program, it's just right on the cusp of meeting the metric for student degrees and student credit hours. Again, if we were able to count majors and minors, it would cross the line there. So I think those are the big buckets of items I'd like to bring forward. Would be glad to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Provost Lefevre. Would you just briefly talk about your plans to engage your stakeholders in these decisions?
And by stakeholders, we consider our stakeholders pretty broadly. So in addition to our faculty and administration, we reach out to our industry partners all the time. So we're constantly having conversations about what are the emerging needs that a specific industry will have, and how are we meeting those needs? So what are the additional courses or certifications or minors do we need to bring on within any given major to further address those needs? Does that answer your question, Regent Lane?
That answered an important question related. Let me be more clear. In terms of implementing this process, what are your intentions about how to decide if you're doing an action plan, a merger, or a possible phase out?
Our initial conversations, again, these are all in one college. So the Fairmount College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, conversations with the dean and the faculty in that college. We really feel that with continued tweaking, I don't know if that's the right word for it, but continued monitoring and revisions, primarily looking at the program of study and the concentrations and minors that we're offering, we'll be able to meet those metrics. So the process really is to engage the faculty, and we anticipate that we would like to put these on action plan, all of them.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Other questions? All right, seeing none. Thank you to the provost for your work, your conversation today. I will work with the BAS members to schedule a follow-up of those questions about majors and minors and credit hours and those kinds of things. I think those are important for us to delve into. Amy, any questions on, nothing from the chat line? All right, Dr. Archer, my apologies again. I know you had this really powerful presentation plan for us and I skipped over. Yeah. So is there anything that we need to add to help, maybe not those who've been participating today, but those who are listening understand our process?
Yeah, I think it's just important to remember that this is a preliminary analysis, and obviously there'll be time for the institutions to interact with constituents, as you kind of touched on that last one. And essentially, recommendations will come back to this body and back to BASC on March 21st. And there'll be a recommendation to continue the program and an action plan to be able to phase it out. And then on the for April, May. So that's kind of the long-term trajectory of this.
Thank you very much. And again, my apologies, that was not intended. Any other comments from the board, or I'd be glad to entertain a motion?
Chair,
Yes, Region Ice.
so I would be happy to move that list as presented becomes our review framework, which is probably a more articulate way to say that. But I do want to add, I think your opening remarks did a wonderful job of laying out all the dynamics associated here. So appreciate the thoughtfulness of that. And I thought the provost updates were quite good along the same lines of looking at all the various impacts that all these programs have. So feel very good about all that.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the motion. Is there a second?
Just quickly, before I second, if I could make a couple
Please.
comments. First, to the provost, thank you. I know that it's a ton of work to look at this. Not only a ton of work, but it becomes emotional when we're talking, obviously, about programs and faculty and students. Regent Lane did an excellent job of talking about that. I think what we see preliminarily is whether it is a standalone program or not. But obviously, as we look at these, we need to expand and say, well, what kind of credit hour production does it actually have? You know, and from that, we can expand to say, what is the cost per credit hour? Those are some of the things that we can look at. Some things are a little less measurable in terms of just tangible measurements, but I think we can get there when we look at research dollars and things like that, that we bring in. So I think that, you know, myself as a region, I'm looking to you as provost and to your faculty and division chairs to tell us what they believe is the best direction that we can move to make these programs not only affordable, but also still maintain the impact that they have on the entire university, because I think that those things are very, very important. So, and with all of that, I would also give you a second.
Thank you for that second. We're breaking protocol, so before I ask for a vote, I'm going to ask Regent Mendoza if you have anything you want to add.
I just appreciated the explanation by the provost. It was very thorough and it helped me understand the process that you guys go through as well. So I just appreciate that.
All right, thank you very much. If no other comments, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, it's unanimous. So we'll move these programs into the next phase of the process led by the provost and the universities. So we have one, before we adjourn, we have one question online from Provost Arnsdorf.
Yeah, thank you. I thought I heard Daniel say that we would present recommendations in March. The timeline I'm looking at led me to believe that would be in April. So I'm just looking for clarification on when our recommendations need to be received for preparation for BASC conversation.
Dr. Archer.
Yeah, so the timeline that was approved back in June, we did say March. We did push this back a little bit from initially, this was going to be a September type of conversation and release. So it's up to you all. We can certainly push this, the provost recommendations back in April if that's better.
Thank you for bringing this to our attention. I was under the assumption we were going to move forward March 21st, but Regent, what's your pleasure?
Whatever works
Make a
best
change?
for university.
Okay, let's leave it March 21st, and then Provost, be glad to talk with you about whether or not that is a detriment to your processes. All right, so thank you for raising that, Provost Armstrong. So with that, thank you all for a very productive conversation today, and I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. And is there a second?
Certainly.
All right, we have motion to adjourn and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank